Hello, everyone. Hi, career thought leaders. Good to see you today and glad to have you here. And today we are going to be talking about the first 3 trends in the 6 trends of our Career Jam cycle. So every year we come up with trends for the next year and what you can expect to see in the Hi everyone. Yes, thank you. Glad to have you here. So like I said, today we're going to be going through the first 3 trends in our top 6 megatrends for Career Jam. And I'm excited that this year we're going to have some people talking about these trends and bringing some information to us. And I wanted to make sure that we have a baseline because after they give these presentations, we're going to have our regular colleague discussions that tell us what we all see because we are all in the trenches doing this work and have expertise that we can share with each other. So that's what we're going to do during the event. Let's get a little bit of background so that we can join these speakers and have a great discussion during each event. So what are our trends? We've got our 6 megatrends here today: emerging technologies, remote work, and virtual job search. So those 3 really floated to the top when our experts that have attended in the last few years were voting. And then these next 3 were right on their heels with the diversity, equity, and inclusion in hiring and careers, mental health and managing anxiety, and then older workers and career guidance. So today we're going to go through these top 3, but I'm wondering which one you're most excited about. So go ahead and put in the comments which one of these topics are you most excited about? Which one do you see impacting your work the most? We'd love to hear that. And as you're sharing, there's people sharing from all different platforms. So on Facebook, on YouTube, and love to hear what you are seeing in your work. What is one of these trends that's really impacting your work? And of course, you can share as we go throughout today. So hi, Elizabeth. Hi, Murray. Good to see you here today. Thank you for joining us, Elizabeth. All right. So our first one that we're going to talk about today is emerging technology and jobs. So emerging technology and jobs means that there's new technology coming on the scene, and of course that's bringing with it new jobs. There's also new technology coming on the scene that we're using in coaching. And so our 2 speakers that are going to be talking about this area are Tim Salu, who is in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, talking about what new careers are coming up in the tech world, which we'll look at here in just a second, some of that data that says why we're talking about tech. And then also we have Adrian Chu, who is a careers expert in Singapore that's been developing AI technology that we can use in our practice. So he's going to be opening up that discussion a little bit more to how can we use AI in our practice today and moving forward. So Kimberly says she's excited to learn about diversity, equity, and inclusion in remote work. Murray, diversity, equity, inclusion, and then Deb Dib. Hi, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. All right, so let's look at some of the numbers here. So this is actually something that Deb Dib found for us to look at this trend just in terms of freelancing. So it's interesting, before the pandemic hit, I was starting to hear a lot of pushback on the idea of freelancing growing, right? People were finding jobs, there was more open full-time jobs, and the trend seems to be moving away from freelancing. In fact, I wondered if they were going to reach their 2020 predictions for the numbers of people freelancing. Well, when COVID hit, of course, layoffs happened, and then freelancing just ramped up. In fact, technology companies are doing even more than they were before. There's freelancing even in areas you might not expect it, like industrial engines. One company I know of has outsourced some of their tech support to freelancers instead of bringing in-house staff. So this is an interesting trend because it was sort of dying down and now it's just shot back up. And you can see here that Americans, 36% of our workforce are now freelancing. And interestingly, of course, the generations, when you see millennials, Gen Z, and Gen X boomers, and how many of them are freelancing. So this is something that has come back strong. And of course, I know many of us are working with clients that either want to start a side hustle or are considering freelancing because of the industry shifts, because they're having a hard time finding work, or because they think that maybe it would be a little bit more stable than dealing with the ups and downs of the big companies. So, which many of us live, right, as independent business owners. Remote work, excellent. So Elizabeth, glad to see that that's one you're interested in. So the other big topic, and has been for a while in terms of jobs of the future, is the automation. I love this graphic from the World Economic Forum, just goes through the human to machine shift that people are seeing, and what's going to happen to that part of the graphic there. You can kind of see the machine lifting out that portion of the jobs that's going to be going to machines from humans. You can see right now that that's estimated to be 14%. And I've seen higher numbers. World Economic Forum seems to be pretty stable on around that 14%. And of course, we know that a lot of jobs are going to be created by machines, and what will that look like and what will those be is part of our challenge as career professionals. How do we help individuals get ready to take those jobs that technology will be creating? So hi, Eddie, good to see you. Thank you for stopping by. Always glad to see career service providers, and I know we have some job seekers joining us today to know what their future looks like. So this is a different idea to look at this, that how can we predict what might be coming? We've got data about what jobs might be created, what skills are important, and the data in the World Economic Forum has a really dense amount of data on what jobs are coming, and we'll look at that again here in just a second. But this framework from a McKinsey study just provided a different way to think about how is the economy going to come back. And so it said, there's this high growth area that probably won't last forever. And so it's got professional video conferencing there. It's the boom in that is not going to last forever. People are going to go back in person. Yes, we'll continue to use that, but it is going to die down a little bit, right? And then you have those fast accelerators, and these are high now and will continue to be high afterwards. And things like telemedicine, they're going to see the benefit in that long term. It's not had as huge of a growth as video conferencing, and so it's not going to see as much of a downfall afterwards. It's going to continue to grow because, of course, they're seeing all the benefits of reaching rural areas, saving costs, allowing medical professionals to see more people, etc. So that's in that right-hand quadrant over here under fast accelerators is ones that will kind of maintain this high level of growth. And then down here, we've got that return to old normal. Restaurant delivery, right? After the pandemic dies down, people will go back out, and that restaurant delivery services will fall again. And then, so potential to stick is right here, the wellness apps. So things that grew and have that potential, but not as high as a potential as the fast accelerators. So as we're talking to our clients about the industries that they might be looking at or the types of jobs, this framework does provide something interesting, a little bit different than we're used to thinking about in terms of what is going to stick and what might not stick. So Linda is saying that she's interested in knowing if Gen Zers will freelance until they find full-time work, or if they're choosing freelancing. And yeah, we'll see after the pandemic is over and things start to grow if that will shift back. Like I said, since it was shifting away from freelancing before the pandemic, my guess is it will shift back away from freelancing again, but be a little bit stronger because now people will have more experience in it and be a little bit more comfortable with it. And I'm guessing that you've seen the same thing I've seen, is that a lot of people are somewhat afraid of it until they get into it, and then they realize that, hey, this isn't that big of a deal. I could do this, and I maybe even can make the same amount of money, the same amount of salary, depending on my disposition. Some people it's just not a good fit for, and those are the people that test it and then decide, hey, I'm going to look for that full-time job while I'm doing this. All right, so next one is from the World Economic Forum report of the jobs that are growing. Well, actually, I guess it's kind of skills and jobs that are growing. And you can see here that they've got these main areas: cloud computing, content production, marketing, people and culture, data and AI, engineering, and sales. And those areas really give us an opportunity to look at what is coming next and how can we frame that to our clients. I couldn't copy it because it was kind of hard to see. We'll look at it in the sessions that we're going to do during that deep dive in Career Jam. But this World Economic Forum also had this very in-depth graph of kind of mapping where people are now to where they'll be in the future. So if you haven't looked at that report yet, I'd encourage you to go and do that, or join us for the Career Jam conversations, and we'll dive in a little bit deeper there in terms of the transitions that people might be making. And of course, here at the bottom, just, that there's some niche careers and then there's some mass careers, and those more dark circles, the things that don't take as much training and experience to get into, that might be a little bit more accessible to our clients that aren't in these areas right now. And of course, customer success specialist we see over here under sales, sales development, and enterprise account executive. There's some opportunities there that people can take advantage of almost no matter what they've been doing in the past, depending on their interest and skills in sales. And then we've got talent acquisition specialist. Interesting that was one of the high growth areas. And of course, human resources business partner. So some interesting things popping up there as those careers of the future. So when we are about to transition here out of our economic area and growth and job growth, so this is an area that we're always paying attention to. We're going to see more shifts now in the next year, especially as some industries might come back, right? Will tourism, will hospitality, will those come back? And what will that mean for people who were in those fields, or maybe people even who weren't in those fields that wanted to get into it? Then we're going to see some big shifts in 2021 as we all hope for a new vaccine and ways that we can get out to perhaps save some of those industries, and then the ways that those industries will transition. You look at even the personal fitness industry and how it's transitioned over this time, people starting online, more people doing individual work, whether going to people's homes because it's safer. And it will be one of those areas that we'll be watching, is what happens as this comes back. How do those industries transition? Do they just go back to normal, or do they keep some of those changes? And what does that do to the types of jobs that our individuals can get and the leadership positions that our leaders may be in? So remote work is our next area, and we have two great speakers that will be talking about this. One of them is Deborah Benton. She actually wrote a book on the virtual leader in 2012, so she's always been ahead of her time. I've heard her speak. She's amazing. I'm really excited about this. And then we also have Petra Zink from Australia, who will be talking about remote work, and she's a futurist. She does a whole community around the future of work, so I'm excited to hear her talk as well. So this is the job seeker behavior around looking for remote work. And on the left, and this is from LinkedIn, on the left you have job seekers looking for remote work, and you can see just that huge spike starting in March, or oh, this is June. So finally people got with it and they said, okay, I'm gonna have to find remote work. And so they started looking for remote work in June. And there was a few little highs up here, and then we thought, oh, maybe we're going to get back to working in offices, and then nope, never mind, we're just going to find remote work. On the other side, we see job postings, and these are the remote job postings, and it's interesting just to see these big, huge peaks and valleys of people posting remote work. And what does that mean? Overall trending up, but definitely you can see that there's some highs and lows of when they're posting jobs, and that might be interesting for our clients to know that there are some cycles, especially in people posting these remote jobs. So overall, people looking for remote work has grown, and remote job postings have grown, which is a good thing. And the match between those two, you can see that the remote job posting growth is good, and that helps our clients that are looking at that remote job. Now, before we go too far into this section, I think it's important to recognize that there are a large percentage of jobs that cannot be done from home. So this is the percent of workers unable to work from home. So you have almost 60% of workers in the US who are unable to work from home. And then that varies. They've just called out a few other countries here. But if we're working with clients in other countries, they may not be able to work from home. They're just some types of jobs you can do from home, and some types of jobs you can't do from home, right? And this is just a good realization for us in terms of what is able to be done from home, and how are we adapting our work with clients to recognize this. And that's again from that World Economic Forum report. So some of the other data that we have around remote work comes from the JobVite Recruiter Nation survey that they just put out last week. So we're feeling really on top of things right now. I've got some graphs in here from this JobVite Recruiter Nation that was just put out last week. And at the top, you can see we're looking at the onboarding. And this is one of our challenges for people who are working, whether they're just getting that job or they're a leader, that they are, of course, completely remotely onboarding their employees right now, especially in a lot of fields. And this is saying that recruiters feel like 1/4 to half of new hires can be onboarded remotely. So how does somebody get started quickly when they're getting onboarded remotely? And I know that Maureen Farmer and I were talking about this, that she's seen this happen as a leader, as an employee, right? How do you be successful when you don't get to meet anyone face to face? And this is a new challenge that our clients need us to help them with. Those 30, 60, 90-day success plans that we've been doing for clients, now they have a whole new approach, right? How do they do that when they're all online, when they have to get started completely virtually? And then on the bottom, this is just in terms of working from home, that 1/3 of recruiters say 50% of open roles are being hired for remote workers. And we are seeing huge opportunities for people to work internationally, nationally, who never had that option before because of this change in remote work. And this is something that will continue. It'll be interesting to see how much it continues. For instance, my husband was looking at a role in his multinational company, and a role that used to, be required to go to a certain location and maybe their headquarters. Now it says can be done remotely. Will that stick or not? I don't know. It'll be intriguing to see, and it's something that our job seekers need to prepare for. Will this continue where people will let and think roles can be done effectively remotely? So that remote work piece of it is huge. And again, we've got Petra Zink, who will be talking about kind of finding and getting started in remote roles, and Deborah Benton, who will be talking about leadership and how do we help our leaders be more effective leaders in remote roles. So I'm excited about both of those. Then moving into virtual job search, our third big category here. Job search has been increasing in technology for a long time. So in some ways, recruiters were particularly poised to be able to switch into completely virtual job search fairly quickly in a lot of industries. Now, our job seekers, they were somewhat used to some of these things, and it frustrated a lot of them for it to go completely remote, to be hired without ever talking to anyone. There are a lot of kind of entry-level positions where people have reported being hired without ever talking to a human being. And that's hard for them, right? It's a new ball game. They were used to maybe some parts of it being technology driven, but other parts of it being that human interaction. And our job seekers have been struggling with this. And now that it is kind of that employer's market in a lot of different arenas, we will be seeing more technology. There's more tools coming out every day. Saw a new tool in our newsletter a few weeks ago about a new company that's coming out doing that virtual screening, right? Virtual interview screening, which means that one-way interview that a system like HireVue has been doing. We're going to see more of those technologies that are doing the one-way video interviews, and having our clients be able to succeed in those will be really important. So some of the data, this is again from that JobVite study from last week, that 67% of recruiters are recruiting via video. 67%, that's huge. And that is up, not surprisingly, from what we were seeing before. 49 doing phone calls, and then 50% doing more of their interviews via video. And then very interesting over here on the right, that 95% are comfortable with video interviews. That's the recruiters, right? So the recruiters are comfortable with video interviews, which is good. Our job seekers, maybe not so much. In fact, we can see the mistakes that our clients are making over here on the left at the bottom. Poor connectivity. So helping our clients do as much as they can do to make sure they have that. As Marie, you're saying with the digital divide, this is a big challenge for our clients that don't have internet at home, can't afford it, or maybe can't get it because they're in a rural area. How do they compete in this world? How can they get the connectivity that they need? Some libraries are starting to open up, so hopefully there'll be some of those resources again. But for a while, it wasn't even like you could go into the library and use their Wi-Fi because they were all closed for the pandemic. So that inappropriate attire, what does that look like online? We've been having a lot of conversations about that. And then poor eye contact is really challenging when you've got to know where your camera is, and maybe you're trying to look at your screen like I do, right? You look at your screen and then you got to look up and know where your camera is and be able to look at that camera to make the eye contact. And so a few of our speakers will talk about that as well. So our speakers talking about virtual job search, we've got Jillian Kelly, who actually owns Outplacement Australia. She's going to be talking about this virtual job search and some of the data and some of the trends, and that's exciting. And then Maureen Farmer, our job search expert in Canada, she and I are going to be talking about virtual job search as well. So the way that Career Jam's kind of set up, if you look at it, there's 3 sessions each day, and you can choose those sessions. They're spread out around throughout the day, so we didn't expect that people would be able to attend all 3. It's kind of set up that 2 would hopefully be in your time zone, and then the 1 you'd watch the recording, or these top 3 sections are repeating so that you could catch them live with a different discussion, different speaker. You could go back and listen to the recording of the speaker from the other session and then participate in the discussion for that session that's in your time zone. Yeah, Marie, eye contact can be cultural and challenging for different types of job seekers, whether that's neurodiversity or culturally, sometimes even gender based, that eye contact can be challenging. And in some ways, virtual video might help with that, because I'm looking at the camera. I don't have to worry as much about some of those eye contact challenges if I can just kind of train myself to look at the camera. And there's been some other diversity issues, which we'll talk about next week, that they've shown virtual interviews can be good for, if you will, like height. So men can be discriminated against for being short. You're not seen as powerful, what have you. And if you're on a virtual interview, nobody can tell how tall you are. So there are some of those things that maybe virtual interviewing can assist with in interesting ways. And then also that virtual job search, always remiss if we don't talk about what's going on in social media and digital branding. And this is one of the big things that I've been talking about for a while here, when we see that the LinkedIn has been shrinking. So that big blue bubble has been shrinking from 2017 to 2020, from 92% to 72% of recruiters saying that they use LinkedIn in their recruiting process. Instagram, huge jump from 18% to 37%. And then you can see the other channels that they're using here in the blue. And then other ways, of course, that people are finding candidates. And we know that referrals are huge. And Jillian's going to share some of that newer data just so that you have it in during our Career Jam sessions. And then you've got some of the ways that people are turning off recruiters when it comes to social down here. Spelling and grammar errors still number 1. So those of us that are teaching spelling and grammar say, oh, we're good. People still care. And then we've got our marijuana and alcohol still impacting our perceived value to employers. And then political posts, which may be one of those things that we need to help our clients understand how they connect with their political beliefs online does make an impact to what recruiters are seeing when they view their profile. So those are the areas that we're going to go through in our Career Jam. And I'm excited to hear what people think. I'm always excited to see what people say. Some of the new features for Career Jam this year. One, since we're all online and you're going to be chatting, you will have the opportunity to be directly quoted in our white paper, which we've never done before because our in-person events couldn't necessarily capture quotes from people, but we'll have that option. So you go to our white paper, you download it, you'll see that it's a document full of information for career service providers and our job seeker clients, our leadership clients, even entrepreneurs, and that information is put together from our Career Jam participants. This year, you'll have an option to be quoted in that if you want to say something specifically that we put into that paper in a call out quote. Also, 2 of our speakers, Adrian Chu, who I talked about, does AI, and his Career Agility Index uses AI to help people figure out their career agility score. And he's giving us all a free Career Agility premium report. So you'll get to take that and see how it works and get your own premium report, or perhaps use one for a client. And then you'll also get a free download of the Calm app. It's not Calm. I'm not remembering the right name of it here, but Jordan Friedman, who is our speaker on mental health and stress reduction, he's giving us a free download of his Calmcast app, so that you get that. So those are just some other freebies that will be for our Career Jam attendees. I'm excited. The events will start next week, Monday in the evening here on Eastern Time, or in the morning for our folks in Singapore and Australia. And we'll kick it off with Tem Salu talking about the emerging technology and jobs. So I hope you'll join us for the event. We'll also be back next Tuesday at this time to do our next 3 big trends in our diversity, mental health, and older job seekers. So we'll see you back here next week, or we'll see you on Monday for Career Jam.